back in the land of cold. Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to the shop. This is our 2013 Mitsubishi Fuso FG that I'm trying to get to start. Where did we leave off? Oh, I remember. Nothing has worked yet. However, I do know there are no codes and that an engine will not run without sufficient fuel pressure. I know, right now, I'm showing I do not have sufficient fuel pressure. Here's the real question. Do we actually have fuel pressure and it's a bad rail sensor? Or do we actually not have fuel pressure? Today, I have an idea of how I might be able to confirm whether we're actually making fuel pressure or not. So, if the fuel pump is making fuel pressure and sending it to the rail, and the rail has fuel pressure, but the computer can't see it, the computer's not going to fire the injectors. It could be as simple as a bad fuel rail pressure sensor. Here's the bit of the snag. If the mechanical pump is creating fuel pressure and sending it to the rail, but the fuel pressure regulator in the rail is stuck open and returning it to the tank, we're not going to have fuel pressure. So that kind of puts me in a bit of a chicken and egg situation. If I don't create fuel pressure, I can't measure fuel pressure. And if I create fuel pressure and dump it, I can't measure it. And if I'm creating it and not dumping it, but I can't measure it, I don't know that I have it. So step one is coming up with a way to install this mechanical pressure gauge that's good for 10,000 PSI. Here's my plan for this. This gauge has a 1/4 inch MPT thread on the base. Nothing in the fuel system has a 1/4-20 thread, and I really don't want to cut into or modify anything in the fuel system. That said, I know these, which are Volkswagen wheel lug studs, are the same thread as my injectors. This is what I've been using to plug the injector line in all my previous testing. So if I take this and thread the end of it and drill a hole through it, I should be able to put this into the injector pipe and this into the lug and get a pressure reading of what's going on in the fuel system.
Step 1. Drill out the right size hole in the stud. Follow that with a quick deburring and get the tap started in a nice straight line. And then tapping by hand. As it turns out, this is likely hardened steel class 10.9 or 12.9.
And now that I've got threads in here, I've got to go back and bore a hole all the way through so the fuel can get to the gauge.
This hole needs to be kept small to stay in line with the fuel pipe opening, so I'll actually drill it smaller from the other end.
You know by now how things generally go for me. Well, this is no different. You saw me put the threads in, 1/4 NPT threads to hold the gauge in. That was very difficult. I'm pretty sure this is a hardened steel. Makes sense, it's holding a wheel on. I started drilling the hole through for the fuel to come through from the head side. I went about 3/4 of the way through, but I wanted a slightly smaller hole on the other side. So I started drilling the smaller hole back from the other side. And then you saw me clean the face off. So I'm about 95% finished this. And then I seem to have broken a small piece of drill bit off in this hole, which was okay because I was drilling the smaller hole from the other side until I broke the drill bit off in the other side. So now I've got a broken drill bit in this side, a piece of a broken drill bit in this side, and I can't connect the two sides. Oh, and I can't find another one of these bolts.
Sometimes it's best to just step away, and after eating lunch and watching my footage, I had a realization. I'm an idiot.
I don't need the full length of this bolt, and I've already drilled 3/4 of the way through it. I can just make the bolt shorter, cut it off here, and I'll be into the hole that's already there. How did it take me 2 hours to come up with that solution?
I'll cut the majority off with my grinder and then turn it down around the broken drill bit until I can just face off the last little bit. Then a final polish with some fine sandpaper and we should be good.
Now, the next step might not seem all that critical, but it's probably the most critical of all. I have to get every single micron of debris, dirt, filing, anything out of here because this is going directly into the fuel system. And if I don't, I'm just gonna end up where I would have been with metal filings in my injectors, except now I have new injectors. So cleaning, more important than any of the machining. Cleaned up, threaded in tight, let's give it a go. I'm gonna install this on the line for injector number 2 because I have to take injector number 2 out anyway because I need to recut the seat. So if I'm gonna be disconnecting one, might as well do the same one. Loosen the line on the rail. Make sure I'm going the right way to loosen because I'm on the wrong side. Oh, that's the wrong way. That's the right way. And then pop my return off to get it out of the way. I'm just going to rotate the fuel line up so that it's, oh, I need a cap for that injector so I don't get dirt in it before I take the line off. Injector cap. Okay, so line off. Rotate it up out of the way, cap on, roughly there. Pressure gauge. Come on. There we go. I wonder if, I'm gonna do it that way so I can see it from where I'm cranking. All right, now I gotta remember to tighten these down. So I wanna bleed the fuel out of there first, probably. So let's tighten. That's 19, 18. Helps when you have the right size wrench. Okay, that is tight. I'm gonna see what happens. See what I get for a reading. Now these are both 17. Important to tighten this or fuel, even at 100 PSI from the electric pump, will spray everywhere. All right. We now have a mechanical gauge on the fuel system to see what's actually going on. Is it just the sensor is not telling me that I have fuel pressure? Even though I've replaced that sensor, I could have replaced it with a bad one. Now, even though I've put the return line back on the injector, I have also pinched off the return line because the electric pump will push fuel backwards through this, and I don't want it to push back into the injector and then come out the top and flood all over the top part of the engine and drip down into the bores of the injectors. Bad enough as it is. So what we should see here, this is our 0 to 10,000 PSI gauge, or 7,000 kPa. 100 PSI is what the electric pump does, so the needle's barely gonna move. Around 5,000 PSI is what it's expecting during starting, so we're gonna be up around here. So if we don't get the needle moving much at all, then my fuel rail pressure sensor is probably accurate. And if we come up to here, but this is telling the computer we only have 100, then it's probably this. Now at the same time, to make sure we're comparing apples to apples, I'm gonna be watching the Autel scanner as well as the mechanical pressure gauge, because my luck, of course, I would crank it over, it would have fuel pressure, and then I wouldn't understand why. So if I see fuel pressure on both, I know the sensor is reading pressure and we have pressure. If I only see fuel pressure on the gauge, I know that the sensor is not picking up or not sending the correct signal. There we have it. No fuel pressure detected by the mechanical gauge and no fuel pressure detected by the rail pressure sensor feeding the ECU, which is feeding the Autel scanner. Those two sensors are in different places in the rail, and that tells me we are not creating fuel pressure. Mechanical pump or rail pressure regulator. There is one little piece of information I have that could be an indicator. I do know, thanks to several viewers, that the amount of current that my fuel pressure regulator in the rail is drawing is not the same as what other people's are drawing. So, is that an indicator that it's bad? That is a new one, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be bad. I have another new one. This will be number 4 that I've put in there. 2 used ones, 1 new one, and now another new one. One thing I'm interested in seeing before I install the new one is if I just plug it in outside the rail, does it react in the same way as the one that's in there? As in, is the amp draw the same, or is it matching what other people's does? Is that going to give me a 100% answer? No, because it doesn't have any load against it. The current draw could be different, but I would expect it to be lower, not higher. Right now, mine was drawing, I believe it was 1.3 amps if I remember, and others are around 1.6. So, if I plug this in, what does the Autel tell me?
Here we have the new regulator outside the rail. 0.6 amps during cranking. And now plugged back into the one in the rail. 0.6 amps during cranking.
So both the new and the old rail pressure regulator are reading exactly the same thing. One in the fuel system, one out, and neither of them read the same as what your guys read. Here's what this leads me to believe. My fuel pressure regulator is not drawing the same amount of current as other people's because I don't have any fuel pressure in the rail for the regulator to be working against. If I had fuel pressure in the rail, the readings would probably be the same. I have a feeling this is going to turn into a mechanical fuel pump.
But as one last check, it's pretty straightforward to again swap out the fuel rail pressure regulator just to confirm that it's not the cause, or at least put it at an extremely low probability. To do this, I first loosened the nut on the regulator and then disconnected all the injector and the supply line. With the lines disconnected, undo the 2 bolts that mount the rail to the engine, and with that, the rail can be manipulated just enough to swap out the sensor. With the new sensor loosely in place, I start by reinstalling the fuel supply. This makes it easier to install the supply line nut as you can manipulate the rail. Then reattach the rail to the engine, reconnect the injector lines, and tighten the pressure regulator nut the rest of the way.
New rail pressure regulator is now in. All the lines are buttoned back up. I've kept the mechanical gauge connected. I'm on the screen to watch pressure. I don't expect to see any difference here. I think that is going to do exactly the same as the other one was, but I think it's the last thing that I can try before I have to replace the CP4 fuel pump. All right, I have cycled the key a couple of times and I've heard most of the air go out. Let's do it one more time for fun. Not really hearing any air go through there now. Let's go to graph. So the rail pressure right now is basically the blue line at the bottom. The rail pressure expected is kind of right here for idle. And the difference between the two is the green value there. So we're at 100, we're expecting 5,000. It says the difference is 4,973. Let's see if that goes to 0. No difference in fuel pressure. Well, unfortunately, I think with the amount of diagnostics that have been done, it's clear there's only one way to fix this now. Either that or a CP4 fuel pump. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out the links, hit up that QR code, but most importantly, don't forget to come back next time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you then.